started as a fun camping trip turned into a nightmare when our friend Danny vanished into the woods. Despite hours of searching, all we found was his backpack in an eerie, abandoned cabin. Join us as we recount the events of that fateful night, the exhaustive search efforts, and the lingering mystery of Danny's disappearance. It was the summer before my senior year of high school, and my friends and I were planning a camping trip to celebrate the end of the school year. We had chosen a spot in a remote forest area about 2 hours from our town. The place was well known among the locals for its serene beauty and the fact that it was rarely crowded. We were all excited to get away from our mundane routines and have some fun in the wilderness. There were 5 of us. Me, my best friend Mark, his girlfriend Lisa, our friend Danny, and his younger brother Ethan. We packed our gear and headed out on a Friday afternoon, ready for a weekend of adventure. The drive was uneventful, and we reached our campsite just as the sun was beginning to set. We set up our tents, built a fire, and started cooking dinner. Everything seemed perfect. As the night wore on, we sat around the campfire, telling stories and laughing. Danny suggested we go for a walk in the woods to see the stars better, away from the campfire's glow. Lisa and Ethan opted to stay back, so it was just me, Mark, and Danny who ventured into the dark forest. We walked for about 10 minutes, chatting and joking around, until we found a clearing where the night sky was indeed stunning. After a while, Danny decided he wanted to explore a bit further into the woods. Mark and I were tired and wanted to head back, so we agreed to meet Danny back at the campsite in half an hour. Danny reassured us he'd be fine and disappeared into the trees. Mark and I headed back, using our flashlights to navigate the dark path. When we got back to the campsite, Lisa and Ethan were waiting for us. We told them about Danny's little adventure, and we all sat around the fire, expecting him to return soon. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. We started to get worried. Mark suggested we go look for him, so we grabbed our flashlights and headed back to the clearing where we last saw him. We called out Danny's name as we walked, but there was no response. The deeper we went into the woods, the more uneasy we felt. After what felt like hours of searching, we stumbled upon a small, abandoned cabin. The door was slightly ajar, and Mark, ever the brave one, decided to check it out. Lisa and Ethan stayed outside while I followed Mark inside. The cabin was dark and smelled of damp wood. We cautiously moved through the small space, our flashlights revealing old, broken furniture and scattered debris. Suddenly, Mark stopped and pointed to the floor. There, half hidden under an old blanket, was Danny's backpack. We called out his name again, but the cabin was eerily silent. We searched the surrounding area, but there was no sign of Danny. With a growing sense of dread, we decided to head back to the campsite and call the authorities. When we got back, Lisa and Ethan were anxiously waiting. We explained what we found and immediately dialed 911. The police arrived within the hour, bringing search dogs and more flashlights. They combed the area thoroughly, but there was no trace of Danny. They questioned us extensively, and we recounted everything that had happened. The officers assured us they would keep looking, but as the night turned into dawn, our hope began to wane. The next morning, the search continued with more people and equipment, but still, no sign of Danny. The police theorized he might have gotten lost or injured, but there was also a possibility of foul play. We were all in shock and disbelief. How could our friend just vanish without a trace. Days turned into weeks, and the search gradually scaled down. Danny's disappearance became a cold case, and we were left with unanswered questions and a heavy sense of loss. The abandoned cabin was investigated, but it offered no clues. It was as if Danny had simply evaporated into thin air. Years later, I still think about that night in the forest. The memory of Danny's backpack in that creepy cabin haunts me. I sometimes wonder if there was something we missed, some detail that could have led us to him. But the forest keeps its secrets, and Danny remains one of them.